Welcome to Tiger Wolf. This is our first episode. We've never recorded an episode before.
We've never even met each other before.
Ever before. My name's Chris Gliddon. I'm your tiger.
I am Nathan Lige. I am your wolf.
And we are here to debate and battle between two topics. We decide which ones should win. Let's go.
Angry Birds versus Flappy Bird?
You can't even remember the name of it. That's awesome.
I wanted to call it Flight of the Bird.
So our first topic today is which one should win, Angry Birds or Flappy Bird?
I was just thinking about how in ancient China they would often, to settle like greater disputes, they'd enter into these epic debates between the greatest scholars of the time.
Really?
Yeah. That was like literally...
Like this?
Yeah, exactly. And
Perfect.
I mean, something that we...
This means we're doing... This is high art.
Something we have done when we were not recording previous versions of this podcast was playing Romance of the Three Kingdoms 2.
On Super Nintendo.
Exactly. But you can play later versions of the game that actually include those debates. Like, rather than doing like a physical duel of might, you're actually doing a duel of wits.
Oh.
So,
really? Which ones? Which games?
I don't remember for sure, but I think like 8, something like that.
So Romance of the Three Kingdoms 8.
Yeah, you choose like a phrase.
What platform is that on?
PS. Well, I want to say PlayStation 2, but I'm not positive.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're here doing the same thing, except with Flappy Bird and Angry Birds.
So
Confucius would be proud.
Okay, so here's the thing. So clearly, like, so who's the one that would most people would pick clearly?
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds. Okay.
That's the largest cultural impact.
So we've decided that our underdog is Flappy Bird.
Yes.
Now you say cultural impact, but there was a huge cultural impact with Flappy Bird because, like, this guy he'd put out a bunch of games before, some little indie developer. Nobody had picked up on any of them. Flappy Bird suddenly out of nowhere, it doesn't pick up for the longest time. Like, it's like 6 or 7 months of like nothing. And then suddenly everybody and their dog is playing Flappy Bird and being angry about it, and that's the meme. The meme is like, how far can you get in Flappy Bird without being frustrated? And that's kind of the joke of the whole thing.
But doesn't Flappy Bird seem like the Jimmy Ray of game apps?
Does anybody even remember who Jimmy Ray is?
Exactly.
From, like, 1998?
That's exactly my point. I think in 10 years, no one will have any idea that what Flappy Bird was.
Are you Jimmy Ray?
Who wants to know?
Fay Ray? Who is Fay Ray?
I don't know. Oh,
somebody should have asked that in 1998.
Fay Ray was the actress who King Kong held grabbed in the old King Kong movie.
You know the answer. That's incredible.
She has like sort of that signature scream when the monster's holding her.
Right.
Ah! Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh dear. Okay. Well, yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like, one thing that I think that's interesting about Flappy Bird was the fact that, like, you know, he took it down. Like, nobody has ever done that before, and that actually just made the game more famous. Suddenly, people were like going out and trying to find ways to like download the app because they'd missed it, and they'd heard so much about Flappy Bird. You know, the game constructed from like you know, stolen assets from Super Mario Brothers 3.
It could be the sort of a brilliant strategy where he builds up hunger for it and then releases it again in like 2 years.
Yep. And
people go crazy for Flappy Bird.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's a whole bunch of Flappy Bird knockoffs now.
And then they realize it's Flappy Bird.
But here's the thing. Like, one of the things that's brilliant about it is it strips game design back down to like its core essence. You no longer have like you don't have all the extra superfluous like strategy involved in Angry Bird where you have to like aim and like the trajectory and all this stuff with the birds. Like, all that's gone in Flappy Birds. Flappy Birds is just like, see if you can just get through these pipes.
But if you released an app for Pong tomorrow, I'm sure there probably is one that exists. It's not going to do like super awesome.
Maybe it would if there were ads in it.
Maybe if there were Super Mario pipes in it.
Maybe, and cheaps. Because let's face it, like the Flappy Bird guy, he's a cheap.
You can actually make that game.
Cheap
Bird? Pong with like your paddles or the Super Mario pipes. Cheap is the one getting bounced back and forth. We have Flappy Bird Pong. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to make a fortune.
We've got a hit on our hands.
Presented to you by Tiger Wolf Productions.
That's right.
Yeah.
Copyright Don't even think about it.
2012, because we already thought of it 2 years ago.
That's right.
Not during this podcast.
Oh, I think our copyright might expire soon.
Shoot, we better mail that to ourselves. Yeah, so so which of the two for you? Like, what are the merits of Flappy Bird then? What has it got going for it?
The Star Wars license.
What? Oh no, Angry Bird. That's Angry Bird.
Oh yeah,
How's it
right.
going for it?
Sorry.
Like, Angry Bird's got like.
That's my real problem with this debate is I can't keep them straight. I think. So you asked me what the merit of Flappy Bird is?
Yeah, tell me about what you think is good about Flappy Bird. Sorry, Flappy Bird.
I don't know. I think it's terrible. I hate the thing. Like it's not. It's the mechanic is just tap 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 tap.
Yeah. Maybe we should have had a debate between Flappy Bird and
like a Guitar Hero ripoff?
No. I was gonna say Make It Rain. Have you seen Make It Rain yet?
No.
The one where you flip money.
Oh,
That's
yes.
all you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
My four-year-old daughter was enthralled by that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
As she should be, because it's genius.
Well, I mean, I don't want to argue mechanics too much because the mechanic for Angry Birds is exactly like a physics game I played in high school called Bananas, I think.
Bananas. For what platform?
DOS shell.
So did it have graphics or was it like text?
You were a gorilla standing on a building and you threw bananas and you had to punch in the strength you wanted to use and the angle you wanted to throw the banana at.
And it was, let me guess, educational game?
Yeah, it was teaching about physics. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was essentially Angry Birds. Without like the fancy sound design.
Oh, but it was a hit back then, I bet you.
But you don't remember it though.
No, because I didn't play crappy games.
Maybe we should bring that back as an app.
What, Bananas?
Yeah.
Is that what it was called, Bananas?
That or gorillas, maybe. I don't know.
Gorillas?
There's only two things in the game, a gorilla and banana, so I don't know what else it could be called.
Yep. Maybe we could do a mashup. We could mash up that and Flappy Bird, and we could have this brand new game that's like
right.
Flappy Bananas or something.
Pong.
Yeah, Flappy Banana Pong. See, look at this, man. We're full of like $1 million ideas.
This is all copywritten, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so Angry Birds, in its defense, I mean, the truth about Angry Birds is like, it's a huge franchise now.
Actually,
and Ravio like tried. They put out a lot of games before they ever got success.
Right.
Which is like, you gotta admire them. Like, even though they're not the underdog in this battle, like in a way they still have like underdog behavior, right? Like they put out a whole string of games that nobody cared about. Like nobody cared about. And for some weird reason Angry Birds just took off because it was interesting enough. It had a simple enough game design to understand.
I wonder if they figured out exactly why it's a hit, whereas the other ones they have released were not.
I don't know. Like, I think sometimes, like, a hit is, it's a timing thing, right? It's just luck.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of luck involved. Luck and blessings.
Yeah.
Like, there was some sort of miraculous reason why that had to become a successful thing.
I think the amazing thing to me is just how many legs it has. Like, it's...
Oh, that it's still around.
Yeah, because it came out in what, 2008, 2009, something like that?
When did it come out? I don't even know.
It's definitely been a while though, and it's the kind of game I would assume. Like, I can't think of another game app that's had that much prominence for that extended amount of time.
Yeah, like of like all the games that are out on like mobile type games, it does seem to be one of the longest running ones, right?
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now, and it's kind of hilarious how much spin-off stuff there is. Let me go through some of this stuff. Like,
all right, tell us about it.
First thing it mentions is books, and I'm gonna get bored before I get through this list. The first thing is it's a cookbook called Bad Piggies, egg recipes, and a documentary book called Angry Birds Hatching a Universe. Activity books that I'm gonna say there's 8 of them here. I'm just gonna skip them. Storybooks. 2 more of those. National Geographic books, of which there are. Looks like 8 or 9. Like,
because it really is like a thing about geography.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a weird... You have to admit, that is a weird partnership between, like, Angry Birds and National Geographic.
Who do you think initiated that one? National Geographic was like, we smell a perfect partnership here, guys.
We got birds, you got birds. I mean, I think it's...
Exactly.
This was a match made in heaven.
You've enraptured the masses, and people love National Geographic, so...
Yep.
We're going to lend you our brand a little bit here. They also have comics. They have, apparently there's an Angry Birds film. 2 different animated series. I think I've seen one of them. Angry Birds Toons and Piggy Tales. It really seems like even just looking at
game wasn't bad.
The what?
Angry Birds Go wasn't bad.
Well, there's a whole bunch of video games here too, like Angry Birds.
Oh, and they've released on multiple platforms too, right? Like they've released on DS. So I mean, I think on the kind of back to your original point was like it's so big that is actually a reason to say that it should win, is because of the fact that it has resonated for so long, and it's been released on so many different platforms because of the fact that everyone just is really interested in it.
Yeah, I have a release date here of December 11th, 2009. It's actually been released for quite a lot of platforms.
When was it first released?
December 11th, 2009.
2009.
For iOS, on the iOS platform. And it's had over 12 million downloads.
That's huge.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I think the argument is really, are you impressed by maintained
the maintained
excellence
success?
Or like the out of the blue lightning strike success? And
but
the thing
it's
is,
not lightning strikes for them though, like because of the fact that they did have.
But Flappy Bird is that right?
Right.
Flappy Bird is the out of nowhere, and
he also had a few games that he just went nowhere too, right?
Right.
And Flappy Bird didn't actually do that immediately. Like it literally was like, a few months before it suddenly picked up steam. And yeah, I'm not even sure why it suddenly picked up steam. It was suddenly like on the schoolyards, people were playing the game, and it was this like kind of game to see how much further you could get in Flappy Bird. Right. And it had an easy to communicate mechanic because it was back to that kind of like really old school like Atari 2600, like Commodore 64 scoreboard style, right?
Yeah.
Like high scores was like that's like video game 101. Nobody does high score anymore. Like who cares about scores?
That was popularized really by the fact people played arcades back in the day, and that's how you compared how well you did.
Yep.
Maybe, and arcades also were very, very, well, for the most part, very difficult. I mean, people wanted kids to use more quarters, right? So you die, you put in quarters, keep on playing.
Yep.
Flappy Bird, I think, maybe you don't agree,
it's
but
an
I think
arcade game. Right?
It is totally an arcade game, and it's tough. Like it's really easy to make a simple little mistake.
It's really tough. I think that's the one thing that's interesting about it. I think that's what actually keeps people going back to it.
Simple gameplay plus high difficulty.
Easy to communicate your score.
Yeah.
The one thing is Angry Birds. I could have a conversation with you and say, how far have you gotten Angry Birds?
Right.
It's kind of hard to compare, like, if you're better than I am.
Right.
Whereas, like Angry Birds, I'm like, I got a score of 300. You'd be like, no way.
Right. Yeah.
So it's much easier to talk about.
So is that who Flappy Bird is popular with, or kids in the schoolyard who are just
achievers? I think people, or like competitors, people who are like out on the game, like out on this like schoolyard, like going, I'm gonna beat you on this.
That must be why I think the game sucks.
Which means you don't like arcade games.
I like.
So you don't like Galaga? You're saying you're not down with Galaga?
No, I totally like Galaga. The thing I like about Galaga is not like I don't care so much about beating games so much, and I am definitely more the explorer type of personality. Like I played a game recently, and I was like, it was a Star Wars game, and I was like, wow, this Death Star looks really cool, and then I got killed because I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't because I was looking at the Death Star, but Galaga's like the thing I love about Galaga is like adding weaponry. Like as you build up your shields and your weapons change and stuff. That's what I love. Like way more interested in finding like the coolest weapon I can put on my ship.
Yep.
Rather than like getting through the actual game.
Getting through more Super Mario pipes.
Yeah. My biggest disappointment with dying is the fact that I have to like build up my weapons again.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't care about the score or anything like that. So.
Yeah.
So Flappy Bird definitely is not in my wheelhouse.
Right.
If Flappy Bird had like weapons I could pick up as I went. Or the other thing I really love is like simulation games where you're assigning characters or people who have like particular strengths and stuff.
Like Romance of the Three Kingdoms 2 for the Super Nintendo, which is one of the greatest games of all time.
Exactly.
If not the greatest game of all time. Thank you very much.
Exactly. If Flappy Bird was a ruler of sorts, maybe I would...
in ancient China.
Exactly. named.
Maybe Flappy Bird is. And in that case, Flappy Bird automatically wins.
Is Flappy Bird a spin-off of Romance of the Three Kingdoms too that I just haven't picked up on?
Maybe it is. Maybe he's secretly Ko Bayo.
That's right. Flappy Bird is Cao Cao's pet.
Yes.
And he has to deliver a message to Liu Bei.
Yep.
And Lu Bu's trying to shoot him with arrows.
Yep.
Which aren't actually in the game.
What happens at the end of Flappy Bird though? I don't even know.
Has anyone ever gotten to the end of Flappy Bird?
Well, there was a YouTube video that went really, really big of somebody's like, I got to the end or something.
Well, I don't know.
I didn't even See? That's why you should fact check before you do these things. Well, I'm gonna say, okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna say the fact is, in this case, I'm gonna say I'm more culturally fascinated by Flappy Bird than I am Angry Birds, and for that reason, I'm gonna say I'm gonna give it to Flappy Bird.
I would rather watch the kid from the Wizard play Mario 3 than play Flappy Bird. So
well,
for that,
anybody would, because The Wizard is the greatest film ever made, and those who are listening to this
that's true.
should go watch The Wizard with Fred Savage, because it's the greatest, and it has the girl from Rilo Kiley in it.
I don't know what that is.
It's a band. Rilo Kiley. Indie band.
Who knew?
Pretty good.
Well, you did.
What's her name? Jenny Lewis?
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's that scene where he's got the power glove, and he's puts on the power glove, like he's like, I'm gonna beat you because I've got the power glove.
That's
and it's the greatest peripheral ever made.
That's how they.
Who needs Wiimotes? Who needs the Wii U and its stupid touchscreen thing? I've got the power glove.
That might have been the best product launch ever. Really
oh yeah,
announcing it through a movie like that.
Brilliant, man. Man, I can't even tell you. I was so stoked about Mario Brothers 3 because of that movie. I was like, oh my goodness, because they had it on the big screen, and you never had games on big screens.
No,
back
it's true.
then, remember, it was like.
Or the idea of a video game competition.
Oh yeah,
which is mind blowing.
Totally.
They do that somewhere.
But I'm gonna go on a road trip to go to California too.
I think the Power Glove as well was announced from that movie. It had not come up before, and so people were like, "What is the Power Glove?"
Yeah.
And they played some kind of weird racing game, and he's all kind of one hand.
Oh yeah, he's like, look, I can drive it with one hand because I got the Power Glove. But that's not how the Power Glove operated at all.
No.
I remember trying to play games with the Power Glove, and you had to tilt your left finger up to move right, and then push the right button to fire, and you're like, what on earth am I doing? Also, I tried to play Dragon Warrior with it, and that was a total gong show. Oh no, a slime! Ah! Yeah.
Yeah, and if the Power Glove is just straight sucking, you can use the controller pad that's on the Power Glove.
Which makes it doubly useless.
Yeah, you're basically just holding your forearm in front of you as you play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for all of that, I'm choosing Angry Birds.
Because of the Power Glove.
Yeah.
Because of the Power Glove, we have a tie game. So we are at a draw. So those who are listening, you guys can follow us on Twitter. Our handle everywhere on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all blah, 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 blah. All the social networks. It is Tiger Wolf Cast. You can find us all over the place. And tweet us and give us suggestions. And you can tell us who you think would win, Angry Birds or Flappy Bird. Of course, I'm going to say Flappy Bird should win because it's just so bizarre and weird and way more interesting and punk rock and cool and hipster than Angry Birds.
I can't believe I've talked about Flappy Bird and Angry Birds for this long.
All right, so on to our next topic. So in the news, we had in Canadian media, I see this article. It's Lululemon and BlackBerry on the list of brands that will, single quote, that will disappear in 2015.
I can only assume that means girls are not wearing yoga pants anymore.
Well, they shouldn't. I mean, my problem with yoga pants is you might as well be naked. That just leaves nothing to the imagination. They're just weird. And then the whole Lululemon founder guy was like, bigger women shouldn't wear my pants or whatever. There's some big controversy with Lululemon. Okay, so here's what the article says. Once hailed as Canada's business success stories, two major companies are now on the verge of seeing their brands disappear, according to a U.S. website. Wall Street's list of 10 brands that will disappear in 2015. 24/7 Wall Street, a financial news and opinion website, publishes an annual list of brands that predicts will vanish the following year, whether that's because of poor performance or mergers and acquisitions. So for this one, we're going to debate between who's it going to be? Who's going to still be around in 2015? Who would be the ruler in this battle? I think which one would you say is the clear front runner? I mean, like, this is a hard one. Who would be who's the underdog in this one?
I think Lululemon's decline is more recent. Not that I know anything about it, but I feel
it's
like
probably the underdog.
No, I was just going to say the opposite. That they've probably been in a position of strength more recently, because I feel like I've been hearing about BlackBerry's decline since like 2010.
Right.
You know,
so they're clearly the one that's going to lose. Well, yeah.
Their momentum is like really against them.
Yeah.
You know, so I still see girls wearing yoga pants, whereas I don't think I see many
I don't see
cell phones.
Lululemon disappearing at all. Like,
No.
Lululemon is everywhere. Everyone's wearing Lululemon.
But maybe they have enough yoga pants. Maybe that's the problem.
That probably is the problem. Although they do, I hear, like, wear out eventually. Like, but they're not actually, like,
because they wear them all the time.
Yes. Very true. Because they're cool.
Yeah, well. They also seem to mostly just come in the color black.
That's true. Well, except for the hoodies and stuff. I don't know.
I certainly don't see many cell phones with keyboards attached anymore.
But so out of the two, though, which do you think would be around in 2015? If only one of these brands were to be around in 2015, which is actually only a year ago, so this is kind of a ridiculous article to begin with. But so let's pretend that one of these brands is going to disappear in 2015. Mm-hmm. Which one's going to disappear?
In order for BlackBerry, I can't remember the name of their company is
RIM.
That's right. Research in Motion.
Research in Motion.
In order for them,
I think they actually changed the name. They're now BlackBerry. I don't think there is any
really?
Research in Motion anymore, because they realized that was the dumbest name ever.
So they'd have to basically release a new product that would change everyone's opinion about them, and it would really have to have either new technology or an incredible new design, or something that totally changes people's opinion on them. And they haven't done anything recently that's been close to doing that. Whereas Lululemon just needs women to keep wearing pants.
But the thing is, okay, we were talking before about Stussy, and let's look back at the 90s of brands. Stussy is still around.
Yes.
But what about
Is it?
Yeah, Stussy's still around. Stussy, West Beach. West Beach is sort of still around.
I still see a bit of West Beach. I even see West Beach stores sometimes.
Yeah, because one in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But
Mondetta?
Mondetta. I never see Mondetta anymore, right? So
no fear?
No fear. Or what's
Hypercolor?
Cross colors. Remember cross-colored baggy jeans? You get purple baggy jeans as though you were in a Tribe Called Quest. You have the really big baggy
You had some of
pants.
those.
I did. I was rocking it.
Mr. Zog Sex Specs?
Also a really terrible brand name for a brand that's shockingly not around that much. Well, maybe it's around. Maybe I'm just not in the surf thing anymore.
Maybe they've just changed to a different discipline, and then they do wax for surfboards now or something.
Well, that's what they were originally doing. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the thing.
I didn't know. Maybe they're doing wax for hair removal.
Other things. Yeah. But Lululemon, I think, to be honest, between Lululemon and BlackBerry, here's the thing. BlackBerry, they actually just announced that they were going to go back to the old school BlackBerry. And so they're focusing on enterprise. So they're doing this the square screen. So they're not doing a screen that's rectangular like everybody else. Mm-hmm. They're focusing on business and small enterprise or big enterprise and stability and the keyboard, the full keyboard. And let's face it, honestly, have you tried typing on an iPhone or an Android device? Honestly, keyboards rule for a freaking reason. There's a reason why it's kind of cool that the Surface has that weird touch keyboard thing.
Yeah.
You're ooh, a keyboard that's lightweight.
Yeah.
Keyboards are awesome. They work.
I kind of struggle with all of them, to be honest, because my fingers are bigger.
Yeah, you got big carrot fingers. I guess.
Yeah,
they carrot thumbs.
They're
you have bigger thumbs than I do.
Too big for. Let's do a quick podcast comparison.
Yeah.
Also,
your thumbs are double the size of mine. That's ridiculous.
Look how hooked this one is too.
Wow.
I could hang off with that thing.
I feel so inadequate.
Sorry.
So Blackberries just don't work for you then.
Well, but iPhones also same thing.
Right.
And there's a new kind of not new now, probably like last year, a new phone that's out where you can drag over the keyboard in order to type. I don't remember who did.
Oh, you're talking like Android stuff. You're talking about like Swift Key.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
And that seems amazing to me.
Yeah, they're gonna release like Swift Key. They're gonna open it up to have multiple keyboard installs on iOS as well. Because it basically is yet another thing where Apple's like, oh shoot, we need to play catch up with Android.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it makes sense that BlackBerry is going back to basics, and maybe they feel like they've gotten away from what's worked for them. But I just try to think that everybody's moved on. You know, like it's,
oh yeah, totally.
So, I'm not convinced that anything great's going to come out of there.
So you think, well, so in 2015, which one's going to live? Lululemon or BlackBerry? Which one's alive?
I vote the black stretchy pants.
Yeah. You're voting for naked pants?
Yeah, naked pants.
They're just naked pants. They're just weird shaped naked pants. I don't understand why. It's kind of like spandex when people go bicycling. Like,
but look what...
bicycle pants. They're just awkward.
It seems like, in general, there's more of an interest in yoga and that kind of a lifestyle.
Yoga is like the thing.
Right. Like
or maybe just in British Columbia and Canada.
Maybe.
That's the thing.
We have a limited window. So we'll just say, like, in downtown Kelowna, yoga is still relevant.
Yeah, we love it here. We're a little out of touch, but we love it here.
But I think as long... Like, it's Lululemon is tied to that lifestyle and that...
Yep.
That ethos.
So, which is one of the reasons that they're probably being tagged in this as, like, limited lifespan, right? Like if people move on from yoga and suddenly go,
people are just like really into
crumping.
Yeah,
Zumba again or crumping. Crumping. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Crumping for fitness. Why
not? Crumping for Jesus. Okay, so yeah, so Lululemon versus BlackBerry. I gotta say, like, I think honestly, like, if this wasn't 2015, I'm going to say BlackBerry would probably be the one that dies out of the two. If one were to have to die in 2015 and we had to pick the supreme ruler of 2015, if this was like 2020, I could actually see this. I would pick Lululemon would be the one that would fail.
When it was 2020, then BlackBerry's come up with something that's kept them alive for that long.
I think BlackBerry is going to be around for longer than people realize. It's just going to be... I think it's sort of like magazines and print. Like, it's just going to be more of a niche. It's a smaller market than it used to be.
Do you think they'll survive at a smaller...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I think to be honest, like, the fact that, like, the president can't use an iPhone or an Android device but is using a BlackBerry, like, I think, like, the president of the U.S., like, I think that kind of says something. Because of security reasons.
Oh, interesting.
Like, there's a lot that people have said about, like, that BlackBerry is just a more... secure device. Like there's just less hacking going on it. There's
because nobody's using it.
That's part of it. That's part of
it.
Yeah. And there's the same argument for when people like go, well, what CMS should I use for my blog? Like if you use WordPress, you're definitely more vulnerable than anything else, right? Because everyone's using it, which means everyone's trying to hack it. So I mean, I don't know. It's solid. It's a rock solid platform, and I think it's going to be around for a long time. Whereas Lululemon, I think, is going to go the way of the Dino. Okay. I don't know about by 2015, but I think eventually it'll go away.
I don't think women will ever stop wearing black stretchy pants.
I think they will.
Well, but I think we're in agreement. If one of these two do die in 2015, it'll be BlackBerry.
Yeah. So the ruler is Lululemon.
Rest easy, Lululemon fans.
There we go. All right.
Get stretching.
We had one more topic. What was the one? Oh yeah, okay. This was yours. You want to kick this off for our final tiger versus wolf debate for today?
Are we doing?
You're gonna have to pretty much do this as a monologue. I think you're gonna do like your He-Man one, or you want to do something different?
Yeah. So you masters.
Or do you want to? Yeah.
I think maybe we should research this one a little bit more.
Okay. So do you want to do like G.I. Joe versus Transformers?
I'm into that.
Okay, let's do it. All right. So G.I. Joe versus Transformers. You want to tell us what G.I. Joe is and what Transformers is?
Yeah. Well, they're both relevant in a way because we're seeing that 80s pop culture is coming back into movies and other different ways. So Transformers,
basically because kids have grown up and have had kids, and they're like, hey kids, I want to subject you to this really terrible 80s program that I watched when I was a kid that was super awesome. And then the kids watch it and they're like, Dad, this is like the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And
but here's this new rebooted version.
That's way
cooler.
That's way cooler. And then the kids are like, oh yeah, okay, well yeah, I could maybe get behind this.
Well, they're both. I mean, really, probably our introduction to both of them is the cartoon from the 80s. They're both based on toys from Hasbro at the time.
Right, so they started as toys.
Exactly. And
both Hasbro properties.
The G.I. Joe toy, in fact, started quite a while ago, like 50s or 60s. It was...
when did G.I. Joe start? Oh, yeah.
It's quite old.
So G.I. Joe is old.
Yeah, and it wasn't... I don't think it was a Hasbro toy originally, but became one. Certainly when they had those like smaller plastic ones, but it was at one point like a larger doll that...
yeah, because it wasn't a figurine. It was more like this massive doll.
And it was more kind of lifelike to what soldiers were really wearing, with like true fatigues and the kind of accessories they had. I think around the time of Vietnam, the popularity of it really slowed down a lot. But yeah, it does have a long history of a toy.
Yeah, so it's a 12-inch line that began in 1964. So
right, and Transformers has a much more recent history as a toy.
It was known in the United Kingdom as Action Man.
Action Man.
So the Brits of the world would be like, Action Man! Yeah. Yeah.
G.I. Joe.
We call it G.I. Joe. Sorry, I'm getting a question from a Brit. G.I. Joe, that's the real name for it. It's not Action Man. Sorry, United Kingdom. You guys are smaller than North America. And we declared independence in the United States of America.
G.I. Joe invaded.
And we're Canada.
And he won.
G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe, well, I mean, it gets bonus points for being around and being a resurrected property. So really, like, this is the third coming, not the second coming. Whereas Transformers is the second coming.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the third coming, actually.
Well, if you talk about maybe the generations that it appealed to, it's probably fair to say, third coming for G.I. Joe, second for Transformers. But it definitely had a more sort of organic growth, I think.
So tell me about what are your favorite things about G.I. Joe then?
Well, as a kid, ironically, I liked the G.I. Joe toys more.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
Whereas I think a lot of people were more into the Transformers toys because they transform, which is pretty cool.
You were more... So you're talking about like G.I. Joe versus the Transformers toys.
In the 80s.
If you were just talking about the toys, so we're doing a toy debate right now.
Yeah, at the time I was more into the toys.
And I think that's fair. I actually think I might have been more into the toys too, actually.
I think there was more to the characters. Like you had like the little bios on the back of the toys that came, which I was really into.
Yeah, because you could cut it. It looked like a file too.
Yeah.
Like it was in the shape of a file, and you could like cut it out. And did you ever cut those out and like put them in like a...
Totally.
Yeah.
Like a little, file them away or somewhere.
Yeah, like I had like a little recipe box, and I cut them all out, and I put them in there, and I could organize them.
I didn't, unfortunately, I never got to keep that many because my mom wouldn't let us have toys with guns.
All right.
But I would definitely go to other friends' houses to play, or I would get my grandparents to buy them.
See, I was quite fortunate. My grandmother was totally happy for me to have toys with guns. She was fine.
Yeah. My mom actually, I remember we had I guess it'd be a bumper sticker or a flyer from like a rally that was against toys.
Oh no.
That supported violence. And my mom was like an activist against toys.
No, Mom, no. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So she wouldn't be very happy when I would convince my grandparents to buy G.I. Joes for me, and then I would keep them at the grandparents' place.
But what was your favorite like G.I. Joe toys? Like, which were your favorite characters?
I remember I loved what was his name? The wrestler, Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter was one of the most ridiculous toys of all time. He's a wrestler.
I know.
Like, they didn't even try to explain it. They just put him in as the wrestler and then gave him a gun. And
he was a drill sergeant.
You're a G.I. Joe now.
It was a cross promotion that totally worked for me. Because I was also totally into like rock and roll wrestling with Hulk Hogan and that cartoon and all that stuff that was going on. So I was like, oh man, Sergeant Slaughter's in both of these.
That was clearly like a partnership that they did to like make G.I. Joe more appealing.
Hook, line, and sinker over here.
Totally.
Yeah. And
we should have done WWF. We didn't even talk about that.
No, that's true.
We could do WWF versus WWE.
They also made him like the most unstoppable figure within that show, and
Yeah, he was pretty strong.
like they would drop him in like. I remember they had him in the movie, which is one of the reasons why I loved the movie so much.
Right.
Do you remember the movie at all? The G.I. Joe movie?
Okay, you're talking like the G.I. Joe like animated movie?
Yeah, there was an animated movie that came out like on the heels of the show.
Wait. Okay, so was that the animated movie where like
They almost killed Duke and like his
but
nephew.
it was it the weird like side?
Yeah, they were like against these like snake people. And they were,
And there was a whole team
Cobra
of them,
Law,
and they were these
yeah.
weird. They were awesome. I had the whole set of those guys.
But like Sergeant Slaughter's the guy who beat the toughest Cobra Law guy because he's Sergeant Slaughter.
Because he's got the most killer name.
Yeah.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which is actually a really
Ridiculous.
strange name.
And so American. Like it's just it's
I
great.
think like everybody liked Snake Eyes. I was definitely into him. There was like a whole dynamic where for a while they had the Shadow.
Oh yeah.
What's his name?
Heck yes.
Was this,
Because they had Storm Shadow and
Storm
Snake
Shadow.
Eyes.
yeah,
Oh
but
my goodness, those were my favorite.
for a while in the show,
I like ninja. I'm just all about the ninja
Totally.
action.
and they were really cool. They both barely said anything, which again added to the mystery. I think we're
Yep.
seeing a common theme in all the things we like. Where
Yep. Yep.
the less you say, the cooler you are.
Yep, like Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly.
You are cool. You
Yeah.
don't say anything.
Exactly.
Except though, to be fair, Bosk and IG-88 also don't say anything and are clearly not even close to as cool as Boba Fett.
Bosk is wearing like a flight suit that the guys in the Rogue Squadron wear. Like, was he part of the rebellion at one point?
I don't know. He's wearing like this goofy like orange and white costume, and he's like this lizard face, and he goes, eh, and he makes like some sound, and you're like, okay.
And IG-88 has no hinges where elbows or knees would be. Like, I'm sure he can't actually walk. Like, I think after his meeting with Darth Vader,
There's
Darth Vader
no
has to like
way
pick
he
him up
could
and
be
move
like,
him.
yeah, like what? Sorry, what were you gonna say? It was
Just that he's essentially like a deadly piece of furniture.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like you can't do anything with him. Like, and it's funny because that's actually 2-1B, the medic droid, would actually be more useful
That's
to
right.
destroy people as a bounty hunter.
Because he
than
could sneak
IG-88.
behind IG-88. Because
Yes.
IG-88 would not be able to move.
And he's like too tall.
Yeah.
Like he's like this weirdly tall character, whereas like he wouldn't have been able to like get very far very quickly.
Yeah. I think IG-88 is related to the moisture evaporators that are on Tatooine. Like, they look very similar to me.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of recycled parts. They're just like, what are we going to do with all this stuff from the first film?
Totally.
Sorry, the fourth film. To put in the fifth film.
I remember, I'm totally just going right back to G.I. Joe. I remember in the early episodes of the show, they would have like Storm Shadow versus Spirit, who was like the token like First Nations Indian
Oh,
character.
it's so
Like,
terrible. I feel so terrible for like the First Nations that have to put up with this crap.
he had like the pet eagle who he like, I think he maybe spoke to him telepathically or.
Of course, just
Uh-huh.
like the guy from Alpha Flight
Yeah,
does.
because he's one with nature, as
Yep.
all Indians are.
Yep.
Um,
Yes, all Indians that aren't from actual India.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So,
It's just so wonderfully racist.
but
It's
that
terrible.
somehow evolved. He might have even had a rivalry with Quick Kick at some point, but
Quick Kick.
do you
Who the
remember
heck was
Quick,
that?
Quick Quick was more like
What
the
a
karate
stupid
guy.
name. Oh man,
He
that's
had, like-
horrible. See, I rejected this from my memory. This is
Quick Kick.
Quick Kick.
Quick Quick had a great bio where he was like a movie stuntman, and so he would like fight, and he just was constantly making really like quips all the time. They should have called him Quick Quip.
Oh, that's horrible.
But definitely Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. Like,
Look at him. He's stupid looking. Oh yeah, I remember the. Look at this. Look at this
Oh,
shot
yeah.
of him. He's like, oh man.
I did think it was really great that he
These
had
are ridiculous.
throwing stars. Of course, he didn't really use them, but
Wow.
yeah. I mean,
He looks deadly.
yeah, he was kind of like the karate answer to Storm
Wow.
Shadow, I suppose.
But see, yeah, like what was this?
The other thing about the G.I. Joe stuff that was really cool were all like the vehicles.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like they had the planes that could kind of float. Actually, the once I was able to get some G.I. Joes, I got like this moving fortress thing that you'd actually have to buy like 5 or 6 different
Fortress.
separate.
Was it a good guy fort or a
Yeah,
bad guy?
it was a good guy thing, and then you
What
would
was
like
it, the mobile command center?
no, it was something where you would buy like these 6 different like vehicles, and they each have one piece that would break off, and they'd all form into one big
Oh man.
vehicle. It was pretty weird. I
It's
like
just sort of like the Transformers did that too, where they had like you got to combine these guys.
that thing down there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember really like I had some sort of crazy vehicle. I think it was like it was some snow thing. I think it was like Storm Shadow had like a snow variant of himself, and they had some like kind of like all-terrain vehicle
Yeah.
for driving in the snow.
There was like the, so was it a Cobra thing or a G.I. Joe thing? Because there was
Well, see, that's the other thing. That's a fatal flaw. Like
Yeah.
Cobra sounds cool,
yeah,
but like, and he's got the cool like the Cobra Commander,
yeah,
and like the hooded Cobra Commander. I had him. He was super awesome. I was totally into the bad guys in that.
yeah.
But that's a flaw. I don't even remember if Storm Shadow or the other, who's the other ninja guy?
Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes. I don't remember which one is the bad guy. I think Storm Shadow's the good guy and Snake Eyes is the
Snake
bad
Eyes
guy.
is the good guy, and he had.
Oh, see, that's so confusing.
He had like the visor that looked like was off the Knight's helmet.
Yeah.
But he had the black outfit.
But he was cool though.
He was
Because he
totally
was black.
He literally never said anything, I think.
Yeah, which just made him awesome.
Yeah. Storm Shadow was he was all dressed in white, but he was the.
Yeah.
The white ninja.
Oh yeah, I like Storm Shadow a lot.
And they both had like the same tattoo on their arm because they were from the same tribe or whatever you would call it. Like in the back on there, those red stripes.
Oh yeah, see how awesome that? Look at the visor for like Snake Eyes is incredible.
Yeah, totally.
Like look at that. That's like Geordie from Reading Rainbow.
Totally.
Like, his revenge
Or-
turned into a ninja. It's like Geordie the Reading Rainbow ninja.
And the same way, I think the coolest Transformers are the ones that have mouths that look like that. Like they don't have actual mouths that move.
Yeah.
Like Optimus Prime is like that. Soundwave is like that.
Oh yeah. Soundwave.
My favorite Transformer was the guy with the ears that would light up whenever he spoke. Wheeljack.
Really?
Yeah, I loved Wheeljack.
Why
He also,
Jack?
I don't know. I think it's probably because his ears lit up. But he also, I think, didn't had a mouth that like wouldn't like move.
But you didn't like the toys as much as G.I. Joe, so why not?
I don't know. I think with the G.I. Joes, like I love Transformers toys. They're awesome.
Yeah.
But they seemed a little bit less compatible maybe in some ways. Like if you had I had like a Cliff Jumper Transformer,
Right.
which was this red car, and they would have like I think I had Blur or somebody like that, and Blur was like 3 times the size, and it just was weird that like these
That
were
they
both
just didn't fit
cars in the
together?
same world,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And in the show it kind of made sense because essentially the cars would be more or less the same size,
Mm-hmm.
but when they were in robot size, yeah, Cliff Jumper or Bumblebee were these tiny little guys,
Yeah.
and the rest of them were like Optimus Prime was like huge compared to all of them.
Right. Right.
But so when you're making the toys, they kind of made it based on the robot scale rather than the vehicle scale.
Right.
So I mean, it still was awesome. I still loved it, but it just didn't work quite as well for me.
Logically, it didn't fit with your logic.
No, I think it is worth pointing out a story of a friend of ours growing up. He didn't have all the Transformers, so Ryan Katner.
Yeah.
And so what he would do is he would fold paper into kind of a triangle, and on one side he would draw like the Transformer, like, and then that's how he would draw like the the vehicle version of them. And when he was playing with them, he'd have the Transformers he did have, and he'd be playing with these like paper versions. And when Transformer he just turned the paper around, so all of a sudden they're a car or whatever, which I just thought was amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But what about like the cartoons? Like, so back to the '80s cartoons. Like, of the two of them, which did you prefer?
So the Transformers cartoon is the one I like better.
Yeah.
Of the two, and I don't
So
know
why? What do you like better about it?
Well, I think it's probably the first one I really got into.
Yeah.
And I just think transforming robots is way cooler.
It is cooler.
Yeah.
Also, like the universe seemed more interesting.
Yeah.
There was a better story.
Yeah.
Like I can't even tell you what the story of G.I. Joe was.
Yeah. Because
Like,
G.I.
it
Joe's
wasn't
kind of
that
the same
memorable.
thing over and over, really, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's just like the good guys battling the bad guys. It's
Yeah.
the prime example of like making a product with no story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's boring as anything.
Yeah, I mean, every time Cobra had this huge plot to take over the world,
Yeah.
and the U.S. government had financed this
Joes.
one division of G.I. Joes specifically to fight this terrorist organization, and that's
Good for
all
them.
they did.
And they always won.
And if Cobra took 6 months off,
Yeah.
then that was a lot of taxpayer money being wasted. But
as they built up their arsenal of crazy cool vehicles.
yeah, but I mean Transformers. I mean, you can kind of say the same thing, but they're a little more.
Really?
Well,
I don't think so.
I'm just
Like,
saying, kind of. There's definitely more to it though, because I mean,
Well, you got people coming from like this alien world, and they
Yeah.
both, and like their world was going to explode, and so there was this. What is their other world? Like you had enough there was enough of a baseline of story there. Like
That's
it just
it.
worked a little bit better.
yeah. Well, and I think because you're not facing an army of like nameless Cobra troopers.
Yeah,
They're all individuals you're facing up against. So you might have an episode where it's like obviously Megatron has a plan.
Well, he's also a more interesting character too.
He's
right?
it's fantastic. Also, maybe my favorite cartoon villain of all time is Starscream, which is like the most blatantly mutinous character you'll ever run into. And Megatron is so unbothered he doesn't even deal with it. He's just
it's a great dynamic. Like that alone could carry the whole show. Actually, just the dynamic of the original Megatron and Starscream.
Well, it's so funny too because he has this guy who clearly is extremely ambitious and power mad. He literally actually is the second in command because others do listen to his orders.
Yeah.
So it's like he's like at some point he promoted him to like be his lieutenant, even knowing that he ultimately wants his job, and he's constantly undermining him. And
he
a little
thinks
powers
he's
in the goal.
so he micromanages him like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Megatron is the ultimate micromanager.
Yeah, well, he's also constantly belittling him. Like he doesn't actually like until the movie when he disintegrates him. Yeah. He doesn't actually do anything, but yeah, no, I do love the whole dynamic. But you do have an episode maybe where they follow the Constructicons and their motivations. You have an episode where maybe you're following like the Dinobots and their whole dynamic. Like it's
but some of that stuff when you started getting into like Constructicons, I could buy into, but as soon as they started branching out into like Dinobots, like there were some great Dinobot characters, but it was still like it just became then I could start to feel that it was like a toy being promoted.
It didn't all work, but the premise allowed for more variety in the storylines.
Yep.
And for a while, when they were building it out, it actually still worked too. Like that, they created storylines where like they had a bridge back to Cybertron, which surprise, surprise, allows for a whole bunch of new characters, a whole bunch of new toys.
Yeah.
And for like a season that was fine, and then they had the movie and they killed half of the characters, which was traumatic to me.
That was so great. It was so great. That was like motion picture history.
Yeah,
like, you take this beloved children's franchise, you finally make a movie of it, and you kill off half the characters. Yeah. And by the end of it, suddenly like your beloved hero and your beloved villain, they're gone, and you have brand new heroes and villains, and so you're left going like, what?
Why do I care about these guys?
I don't care about why do I care about Hot Rod? Now he's like Rodimus Prime, which is clearly a stupid name anyways.
Well, and I wonder if they might have been able to pull it off if like the versions of the show after that are really no good at all. I don't know if you've ever seen them like since like the post-movie episodes where like Hot Rod's the leader and stuff.
You're talking like the headmasters and all that jazz?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff is just nonsense. And that stuff is definitely like driven by like, here's a cool idea for a toy. Let's shoehorn it into the show and create a backstory for it and stuff. And for the most, like, even the quality of the animation and stuff seems like it's worse. Right. I don't know if it's because the movie wasn't a hit and they're like, well, we got to take money away from this.
I wonder why the movie wasn't a hit. It was. Yeah. It just left this sour taste in your mouth. It's a funny classic now.
Totally. Probably because of the soundtrack, which is amazing.
It is amazing.
Love me some Stan Bush. And if you watch like a more recent interview with the producers, they say like literally they knew they wanted to refresh the toy line a bit, so they decided to kill like Optimus Prime and Megatron, like all these huge characters,
all the characters you love.
To this day, if they're at like conventions, people will come up and like get angry with them.
Yeah, like understandably, it was one of the it's. I don't know many franchises that have done that since, and actually like. It kind of secretly makes me want to do that with another franchise because it's just so captivating. You're like, it's so big and like kind of ballsy, you know? It's like
I would have been less than 10 when I would have seen that, or like 10 at the most. I think more than like having a pet die, it introduced me more to the idea of losing like, the idea of death and rebirth.
Well, I had Mr. Hooper. I didn't have that.
That's true.
I had Sesame Street.
That's true. I don't think
that I was way younger though.
It's true, and I don't think it hit home in the same way that Optimus Prime did.
Yeah. You know, man. That's straight to the heart.
Yeah, totally. Like Optimus Prime was like had all the heroism that I aspired to, and I was totally, inspired by him, and it was. And they kill him like 15 minutes into the movie too.
Yeah. Right away, and you're like, what?
Exactly.
And you're like, I don't even want to watch this anymore. Why? What? Where's Optimus? You're just left reeling, and then for the rest of the film, you're like, well, it's cool that it's got this funky soundtrack, but
Yeah.
what the heck happened to my favorite character?
Even at that point, I'm like, I think that's where they introduced characters like Hot Rod and Blur and stuff.
Oh man, and Hot Rod, I can't even tell you how angry I was. I was just angry about Hot Rod.
Yeah.
Like, I think I wasn't reeling about the death. I was like, yeah, characters died. But I was like, just take a character that I already knew and loved and make them rise to be a prime. You know, make it like Soundwave Prime. And then I'd be like, yeah, Soundwave is awesome. Now he's the guy. Or Shockwave.
Well,
like,
they did
Shockwave being the ultimate villain would have been amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Or was
Shockwave was a villain, so Soundwave.
But was he a Generation 2 that came out? Was he introduced?
Shockwave is in the first episode because he's the guy with the purple kind of.
Yeah, like he's in the first generation of villains, right?
Yeah, he kind of says
so.
Goodbye to them as they leave Cybertron, but you don't really see him much anymore after that.
Right.
Until they go back to Cybertron, and I kind of lost my train of thought there, but it's totally.
So for the TV show, you'd say Transformers.
Yeah, it is Transformers, and I'm going to group them.
I'd agree with that, hands down.
I'm
There's
gonna
not
group
even a question.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to group the movies with them too. I did like the G.I. Joe movie, but
it's not even close to as good.
I've watched.
What about the resurrected versions of both? So resurrected, like new version of G.I. Joe film with like Bruce Willis and whatever,
right?
And new Transformers. So which of the two?
Oh man, I feel like they're both crapping all over my childhood. Like they both seem like they're. I think might even be produced by the same people, but they seem like they're really produced by like people who are just like they were never fans in the first place, so they're just like, let's just cram as much stuff that seems cool. I think I probably hate Transformers more
after it.
Yeah, and Transformers seems even less connected to the source material than G.I. Joe does.
Yeah,
I've only seen the first G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah,
but at least like when someone
tried to preserve something.
Yeah, like when somebody. I'm trying to remember who was in it, but like, I'm pretty sure Storm Shadow's in it, and I can recognize Storm Shadow. Mm-hmm. Megatron's in the Transformers movie. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, they're totally unrecognizable, other than like throwing in the voice of Optimus Prime.
If you have like Optimus Prime is the only one visually that looks close at all, and even he like is like all hot rodded up. And if you have like three of the Decepticons standing next to each other, I couldn't tell you which character each one is at all.
Right.
And they're all like.
They're like the Todd McFarlane of muscle. Like, Todd McFarlane like exaggerated muscles when he was illustrating like Spawn and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, you just added all these muscles that didn't exist before, and there's this whole wave of Image comics that had all these extra muscles. It was sort of like that with robotics.
I remember looking
at why are there all these parts in these robots? This seems all superfluous.
The Optimus Prime toy originally was just like really simple. Like, you just kind of flip the legs down, you popped his arms out and his head up, and bam, you're done.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like, I don't know, it was early 2000s, there was ever like a relaunch of the toys, and some kid had it. You were there too, I remember, but I could not even figure out how to transform this thing.
Oh yeah,
There's so many different parts. That's what I feel like when I'm watching the movies. Like, that's just like such minute detail, and
that's sort of what happened with like Lego and Minecraft. Actually,
right?
Lego got more and more and more complicated. And then suddenly, like, Minecraft comes along, and specific, and you're like, okay, you're gonna play with Lego now, so make sure you get the set to build that house and then leave it on your shelf.
Yeah.
It kind of defeats what we used to do with Lego, which is just like you had a bunch of random crap and you just built random crap.
Exactly.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, hey, why don't you just make something like Minecraft that has just like, it's just totally open. Yeah. You just build whatever.
Yeah. And
destroy whatever.
Right. And that the whole point is that, you're the one who's being creative with it.
Yep.
And now with Lego, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to build this.
I'm going to build the kit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a model making kit.
Right, and a lot of it is licensed to a bunch of different properties, like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, some Pirates of the Caribbean, whatever it is. So there's way less kind of creative.
The Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I'm sure all of that stuff's out there. But yeah, so I think. Were we still talking about the show?
Yeah, so we were talking about like movies, like the new movies, which of the two would win.
Yeah.
And I think you're kind of leaning G.I. Joe.
I think so.
I'd say probably G.I. Joe as well. Even though, like, I to be honest, they definitely put Transformers on the map. Like, way more than G.I. Joe. So, like, out of nowhere, suddenly Transformers was like a multi-million-dollar, like gigantic enterprise. So you got to give Michael Bay props to his like blue and orange filmmaking explosion style.
Yeah, he took it from being kind of like hipster cool to have a couple of Transformers.
Yeah, to being big business.
Mainstream, yeah,
mainstream, totally
big
mainstream.
franchise.
Yeah, I mean, at least they got the voice of Optimus in it, but like, yeah, I mean, ultimately they're both garbage. But what about the comics?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, I think general consensus says that the run of G.I. Joe comics is actually considered like a strong run in comics, whereas like Transformers is a bit of a mess. But that's actually what I read more of when I was younger and I was into.
Yeah.
So I probably.
I think the story's better.
Yeah. I mean the cool thing about what the comics did for G.I. Joe that it didn't happen in the TV show was that they did follow individual characters and created like
in like the Marvel ones, or like you're talking Marvel Transformers, right?
Marvel G.I. Joe I'm talking about. Yeah,
okay.
They created like whole significant backgrounds of these characters, so you figured out why there was a relationship between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes,
right,
and that kind of a thing. Like there was a whole bunch of stuff explored, and you would like people. Maybe there was like an appearance of like what they call Red October or whatever, like the Russian group in the TV show,
right, and
that would be explored like when we were in the comic and stuff. So it did add like more dynamic character to all that stuff, and there's such a massive ensemble. That's what the disappointing thing is for both of the movies to me, is that there's so many characters and there's so much content out there that exists. You could easily cherry pick just a few really interesting backstories.
And just respect the story that's there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and make it more big picture.
And then just slowly keep building on it, because there are so many characters. It's not hard to find, even if they have one defining trait, to create an interesting story out of that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think if I answered truthfully, I'd probably say the G.I. Joe comics were done better. But I definitely was a bigger fan of the Transformer ones at the time.
I'm going to say, like, for me overall, because I'm also counting in comics, I would count, like, the IDW stuff, and what was that? Before IDW, there was, like, Dreamwave?
The Transformers?
They were so good.
Yeah.
Those Transformers comics on Dreamwave were ridiculously
That's true.
good. Like, I would actually even tell people, like, if you never buy comics, like, if you did like Transformers, go buy the Dreamwave Transformers. They were that good.
The art is what made those stand out more than anything else, I think. But the art,
still really but like the stuff that they did with like Shockwave was incredible.
Yeah,
like it was great. Suddenly, Shockwave had a presence. You're like, ooh, Shockwave, this character, I care about him now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Whereas the relaunch stuff of G.I. Joe, which is out there too, not nearly as strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's true. I mean, the relaunch stuff definitely was stronger on the Transformers side.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a little bit of a toss-up. I mean, probably just because of my fandom, I probably would lean towards Transformers.
Overall, Transformers win?
Well, I mean, for the comics, but overall, yeah, I'd probably say Transformers. But,
yeah, for me, it's hands down. Like, I love the G.I. Joe toys.
Yeah.
I love the G.I. Joe toys. They were just incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because maybe it's because they were simpler.
Yeah.
And I always broke my Transformers, which was a big factor. Yeah.
I found it easier to kind of play with the G.I. Joes too, like where I would have, if I had 10 of them, I would kind of have little teams or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Transformers are just a little more awkward to like, if you had them in robot mode, for example, it's hard to make them walk around and do anything,
Yeah.
So for that, it was definitely cooler. But I mean, both of these properties are things that I liked way better than pretty much anything else at the time. And I know they were like the most popular ones, but I did like them way better than He-Man. Or I would get toys for like the Rambo cartoon, which I was into, or like Mask. You remember that cartoon Mask?
Oh heck yes, I remember. I didn't even know there was a Rambo cartoon, but I know there's Mask.
Yeah,
Mask was awesome.
I totally had some Mask toys. That
Thundercats.
Yeah, all this stuff was cool, but I mean that like G.I. Joe and Transformers was cut above everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
What always disappointing about all that stuff is that there's never like a universal size for the toys. So if I had like a Mask character and a Rambo character and a He-Man and a G.I. Joe, like none of them would like were close.
Totally different. Well, except for maybe the line of the Kenner Star Wars toys kind of went with G.I. Joe.
That's true.
Like those characters kind of fit together.
Yeah.
That's why I think the Star Wars toys are as good as the G.I. Joe toys, and why both of them get collected so like still to this day because they're good figures. You know, and they're kind of brittle, so you had to kind of take care of them, but they weren't as like ridiculously brittle as the Transformer things where you were like
arms would pop off or something.
Yeah, and you were trying to like, it was plastic, and so you'd have them out in the sun, and then the plastic would break down, and
stickers would come off. And,
which then actually, if you think about it, that makes them more collectible because they're more likely to break.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, there's less in mint condition now, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I would just say, I think overall, because of the story, I would have to hands down give it to Transformers overall. So I'd say the victor in this one. So we both agree?
I agree.
Transformers is the winner. If you guys disagree with us, listeners, feel free to tweet us, email us, whatever. You can find us at TigerWolfCast and our website, tigerwolfcast.com. And I think that's it for this episode.
Until the next episode, which will be at the same time. we don't know when.
We don't know when the time will be, but it'll be sometime. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you again.
Thanks all.
Bye.